From the moment the student entered the doors of the RSS schoolhouse, the future swimmer would be bombarded all day with overly zealous physical workouts as well as psychological warfare, such as menacing instructors banging on the lockers in the pool locker room, calling for the next drowning victim while wearing a full-face hockey goalie's mask, like that of the serial killer Jason from the hit movie series. As far as I knew at the time, no other Navy training commands demanded volunteers into job positions that were so physically demanding. It would be like saying, hey, you're good at running, therefore you will go to SEAL Buds training and you have no say in the matter. During the 4-week RSS training, every day was constant physical training, both in and out of the pool, and learning the various swimming techniques, as well as the skills needed to approach and recover a pilot or other survivor in the open ocean. Jumping ahead, the following is a series of quotes from the numerous national news agencies' coverage of the trial of the 5 instructors brought up on charges of conspiracy to commit battery and negligent homicide for one of them. I say here, all names of the guilty are replaced with the word instructor or instructors. First article is Navy instructor found guilty in recruit drowning death, New York Times, September 24th, 1988. Quote, a court-martial today convicted a Navy instructor of negligent homicide in the drowning of a panic-stricken recruit who was forced underwater in a training exercise here last winter. He was also found guilty of conspiracy to commit battery. Remember that. LA Times article, Molly Moore, May 29, 88. Earlier this month, Navy investigators charged that Mireki's death was not an accident. They said that the instructors killed him in a chilling demonstration of brutality, during which Mireki's 26 classmates were ordered to stand with their backs to the pool and sing the national anthem while the instructors repeatedly shoved his head underwater. 2 weeks after Mireki's death, his sister received a phone call from a Pensacola newspaper reporter who said she had received anonymous calls from the naval base. There's something wrong with the way that boy died, one caller said. He shouldn't have died, another said, because at first the Navy covered up the death. My stomach turned, this is his sister speaking, my stomach turned and I started crying. The eldest of the Mirecki children, we knew it. According to the criminal charges against the instructors, Mirecki panicked during the drill and tried to escape the instructors. He climbed out of the pool and clung onto an equipment rack, but some of the instructors pried his hands from the rack according to the charges, pushed him back into the pool, and shoved his head underwater. Now, that part about him climbing out of the pool and grabbing onto that equipment rack, stand by, because when I explain my particular evolutions in Sharks and Daisies, the scenario is almost identical to what Mirecki went through. And thank God I didn't have a heart attack, because I was as scared as Mirecki was, I guarantee you. Mirecki flailed, screamed, and grabbed a pool safety rope, but the instructors pulled him from the rope and held him in a rear head hold until he lost consciousness, according to the charges. He never regained consciousness despite efforts to revive him. One day, when Lee Mareki was 5, he thought he was going to drown. Older kids playfully tossed him into the deep end of the friend's backyard pool and then dunked his head underwater. To the sobbing, sputtering child, it wasn't a joke. Now, this is me speaking now. In my case, being one of the shortest kids in any class, never having been through proper swimming courses as a child, I was repeatedly picked on by bigger kids who back in those days thought it was fun to shove the little guy underwater and make him freak out. All right, next article. The court-martial panel found the instructor was guilty of repeatedly forcing airman recruit Mireki's head underwater, quote, breaking his grip on the pool rope, grabbing him in a rear head hold, and forcing him back into the water. Mr. Mareki had panicked in a life-saving drill, climbed out of the pool, and asked to quit the voluntary training, or drop on request, DOR, halting all further training. Witnesses testified at the 3-week court-martial. They said instructors threw him back into the water. The instructor admitted placing Mirecki in a head hold and dunking him in to break his grip on the rope about 90 seconds before the recruit collapsed. A Navy rescue instructor yelled, quote, "Get him!" before the panic-stricken recruit was forced back into the pool where he died. A classmate testified Saturday. Another classmate testified that the panic-stricken recruit had shouted, quote, "Leave me alone, I quit," and indicated he was quitting the rescue school. Another classmate testified that the recruit panicked during a drill known as Sharks and Daisies. This exercise pits instructors playing the role of panicky drowning victims against the trainees, who then are supposed to drag them underwater to break the hold and rescue them. Prosecutors claim instructors forced the recruit's head underwater while other students in the class were ordered to turn and sing the Star-Spangled Banner during the smurfing. Mirecki suffered a panic-induced heart attack and drowned. Okay, that's the end of all those quotes, article quotes. Now think of the coordinated efforts of these instructors, month after month doing the same things to other students in other classes. Just like the multiple classes I was in after having been rolled back in training so many times for various events that put me in a down status. Next section, Sharks and Daisies Explained. I'm recalling my particular Sharks and Daisies experiences as to show they are nearly identical to what Airman Mirecki endured only 4 weeks after my DOR. In the twisted logic of those instructors at the time, swimmers needed to be able to escape the grasp of a delirious and hallucinating pilot who might have been surviving at sea for days, as if this scenario was the first event they'd fly on once in the fleet. To recreate such an event, the student, or Daisy, was forced to swim in a circle, with their eyes closed and hands held behind their back, in the deep end of the pool with only fins and a mask on. 4 to 6 instructors, the Sharks, would be treading water a few feet away from the student. Randomly, an instructor would grab the student in some sort of panicking bear hug grasp, performed on varying parts of the neck or torso. And the student was expected to execute the correct release from that hold and swim away from the instructor so as to perform a blindside restraint and control maneuver of the pilot or victim, so as to get them ready for helicopter retrieval. As I began Sharks and Daisies exercise, I thought, hey, Navy way was to cheat a little and crack my eyelids so I could peek out and see where these asshats were. And right then, I looked down in the water, and one of the bigger instructors was actually standing on the bottom of the 12-foot pool directly beneath me. He then launched off the bottom upward so fast that when he breached the surface, he grabbed me around the neck, but my face was even with his belly button, and he immediately took me upside down, heading for the bottom of the pool. As my mask and one fin flew off, I immediately was in full-blown panic mode in fear of drowning. Somehow I was able to slip his hold and swam to the side of the pool to catch my breath, with instructors following. I grabbed onto the tile gutter and held on so tight that even 2 instructors, both pulling on me, couldn't break my grip until they pried my fingers off the tile. At that instant, I said, fuck it, I'm going to die, and decided to go completely limp as they drugged me out into the center of the deep end. But me going limp caused them to hesitate just for a second with their grip, and they loosened up, and it gave me the opening I needed. I went absolutely apeshit crazy, like the Tasmanian devil. I swam so fast to the pool ladder that I almost walked on water. And in an instant, I was out of the pool with an arm lock on that 3-inch steel pipe embedded in the pool deck to hang equipment on. All the students were looking at me with jaws open and worrying who was next. At this point, all the instructors were screaming, "You're a fucking pussy! You can't handle it!" And at that point, I screamed, "Fuck you, assholes!" and was fully ready to go to the brig for beating the shit out of the next instructor to touch me. After a minute or two at this standoff, an instructor in the shallow end of the pool calmed me down and asked me to come and work on the exercises with him, which I did, and I walked over and jumped into the shallow end with him, and he said, "Wow, that took a lot of balls to get back in the pool." I've always said if you wanted to train for underwater hand-to-hand combat, at least give the student the dignity of fighting as they see fit, especially with my previous 10 years of martial arts training. Not being held by some by-the-book maneuver that, if improperly executed, meant hundreds of push-ups and flutter kicks on the side of the pool for the entire class of students. 5 months of this shit and 2 different attempts at Hell Week ended that afternoon. The following Monday, in my inspection-ready dungarees, I walked into the rescue swimmer school office, snapped to attention, and told the senior petty officer on duty that I wanted a DOR. Back then, a permanent stamp of shame for any AW.